Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be diving into a new bottle that I've just picked up. I've actually never had anything from Westland distillery, so I'm excited to give this a shot. Now, I've had a number of American single malts, lots of them, and Westland's been on my radar. They've come highly recommended. A lot of people talk about how much they really enjoy their craft, how much they really want to honor their locale, their region there in Seattle, Washington. So apparently I'm told the Pacific Northwest is like the most ideal place in the United States of America to grow barley. And apparently it does very well there. I'm not an agriculture expert, but my buddy down the street who works for an agriculture company has verified that that is in fact true. So excited to dive into this bottle, but it's not just a regular American single malt. The reason why this is so interesting to me is because this is extremely offbeat. Westland Single Cask American Single Malt Whiskey. And the thing that's interesting here, and I don't know if you can make out the fine print there. It's probably going to have a hard time focusing on it that close to you. But anyways, so the thing that's peculiar about this is the finish. Well, that's one of the things that's peculiar about it. There's a couple things that stand out about this bottle to me that make it a little unique. First and foremost, it's cask strength. So single malts. I mean, if you go to the store and you're looking at scotches on the shelf, I mean, you're not going to see cask strength scotch out there. Like, it's just, that's really not how you drink scotch. Most scotch is proofed down quite a bit. I mean, normally for scotch, you're looking at like mid to upper 80s on proof. So for this to come in at a whopping 104 proof, that's pretty high. It's pretty high for a single malt whiskey. So that's one thing that stands out about this bottle. The other thing that stands out about it is that it is finished in wine casks. Now, that's not uncommon. A lot of single malts are finished in things like port, sherry, Madeira, all kinds of cask finishes like that. But this one is a little different. So the wine cask that this is finished in is a wine called Jurancon. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly because I'd never heard of it before this bottle. I never knew that Jurancon was a region in southern France. I didn't know that it was a type of wine that they were known for. I didn't know that it was a white wine that has sort of tropical fruit notes, but is also really dry. So it's a dry, fruity wine. I'd never heard of it. So I figured I'd give it a shot because it just sounded so offbeat, right? It just sounded so different. Cask strength, finished in a type of wine cask I've never even heard of. But I'm not a wino. I will be the first to admit that. I enjoy a good glass of wine, but my palate for wine is completely unrefined. I can only tell you whether I like it or not. I could not tell you what went into the process of making that just by tasting it. I couldn't guesstimate a price tag for it either. So, bear that in mind as we taste this. But I want to give it a shot. We'll see how it is. First and foremost, the color is this dark amber color. Wow, that nose is... Well, it hits you more than a typical single malt does on the nose, mainly because of the proof point on it. But there's also a lot going on there. I mean, obviously you get that barley malt, like that thick maltiness up front. No doubt about it. Oh, it's got fires all over it. That's actually kind of cool. Never mind. My kids are home from school, so they're always like, I gotta show you this thing I made out of Legos. It's fun. Where were we? Definitely plenty of maltiness up front on that, no doubt about it. That malted barley is pretty telltale on the nose. But I'm getting some interesting notes on this though. I would say like a light raisin, like a white raisin maybe. And even a little bit of like, I want to say a really sweet orange, like a tangerine fresh off the tree. You know, my grandparents, when they retired down to Florida. We'd go visit them, and they had what they call a tangelo tree. It's like a hybrid of a tangerine and an orange. They called it tangelo. And we'd take those right off the tree in the summertime down there in Florida, and they were so juicy and very sweet. This kind of reminds me of those on the nose, which is quite interesting. And definitely that like light raisin, a white raisin in there. Let's try it. That is peculiar. Obviously, get that malt, but also right there up front of the palate. One of the first things that comes to mind is like seltzer water, like the French Perrier, right? I don't know if it's actually French. The word is. My dad used to drink Perrier growing up. So I tried it a number of times and didn't care for it. But it reminds me of Perrier on the palate up front. But also very sweet. But it is also, there's a dryness to it as well. It almost reminds me of like a, I don't know anything about Jurancon, but it makes me think of like a Pinot Blanc or a Chardonnay. Yeah, more like a Chardonnay there. Especially on the finish. Like that dry white wine. That is peculiar. I don't think that sweet orange or Tangelo vibe I got on the nose, I don't think I'm getting that on the palate. The fruitiness I get on it is more like those mellow, like those white wines. You know what I mean? Almost like a Riesling, that fruitiness. But it is complemented by the dryness of that white wine flavor that makes me think of like a Chardonnay. Sweet and dry. That is peculiar. What an interesting bottle. Huh. If you've ever had Jurancon, and let me know if I'm pronouncing that. If I might be butchering that. Let me know. I won't be offended if you're like, TV, listen, I like you, but what you're saying is wrong. That's totally fine. Let me know. I want to say it right. I don't know anything about that region in France or this style of wine beyond what I read, just trying to understand this bottle better before buying it. But that is quite interesting. I'm looking forward to sharing that with my buddies who are Scotch fans and seeing what they think of it. The finish really is just, it just tastes like a dry white wine. It's just sitting there. But that Perrier seltzer water up front is really an interesting note. How peculiar. But I don't regret it. That's like an experience bottle. You know what I mean? Sometimes you sit down for a comfort drink. Other times you sit down because you want to experience something that's different. Which is really a good practice if you want to refine your palate and try to understand different nuanced flavor profiles. So buying things or trying things, having a pour of something that's really offbeat every now and then can help you understand flavor profiles better, because you are going into it expecting it to be different, and you know specifically what is different about it. And so you can associate those new flavors that you're trying with a new profile. That's kind of a cool thing to do. So we've got to rate this now. That's tough because in sort of like the innovation category, I'd say this is pretty up there in terms of innovation. But I also have to take into account the price tag on it, which this was $120, like $120 bottle. So bearing the price tag in mind, that you're going to take a gamble on a flavor profile that is so different, so out there, I got to bear that in mind too. So I think if I were to give this a score that I could really feel good about, I think I'd land on a 6.8, which means that it's good. That's good whiskey. I think that's a good bottle. I'm glad that I have it. So that falls into the category of a maybe buy, because it really depends on like what you vibe with, what flavors speak to you, what you enjoy personally. So if you haven't really dipped your feet into the world of American single malts, I would not start with this. I certainly wouldn't start with this. So this is a maybe buy. It depends. Do you want to expand your palate a little bit, try something a little offbeat? If that's the case, then heck yeah, give this a shot. I'd say that's good. But I think that at the end of the day, if I were to feel good about rendering judgment on it, I wouldn't like highly encourage somebody to buy a bottle of this unless they were looking for that experience, like I'm saying, like something a little bit different, something to share with friends, be like, oh, try this. Tell me what you think about that. You know what I mean? It's not something that I'm going to reach for often. It'll probably be on my shelf for a while, and that's okay. It's okay for some whiskeys to sort of fit that niche role. But I should definitely try to get my hands on some other Westland products and see how I like them. I know they do a lot of different finishes with different woods, different species of oak. So I'd like to give some of those a shot as well. So based off of my description of it, would you try it? Does this sound interesting to you? Would you give it a shot? Hey, let me know in the comments section. Cheers. Thanks for tuning into the video. I appreciate you. May you live richly and get better with age, my friends. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.